Here we go. Got an unable to start recording. Let's see if it is or isn't. Because last time I did it, it was recording. So, everybody, I'm glad you are here. Let me check this real quick. I don't want to have to restart. Is everybody seeing us in the chat? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Everybody, 5x5, thumbs up, whatever. I see we have some people. We have North Fias. We have Billy D. Welcome, Billy D. We have Chuck Bob Sweet. Hi, Bob. Who else have we got here? We've got Giotano. Hey, buddy. So, and Bleav is here. SKOL Network. All right, folks. All right, let's get this going. There we go. Biggs is saying we're good to go, which is a good thing. All right, now, welcome back to 2O Bloggers. I'm Dave Stefano, and today we're joined by Darren Campbell, still on vacation, for another edition of mildly existential dread disguised as training camp analysis. The Vikings quarterback competition was supposed to be a feel-good story of the summer. Instead, we got two guys that are mostly, as Tyler likes to put it, fine. Murray's had a couple of good days, and McCarthy hasn't seized the moment, but has some better days too, including yesterday. And according to 50 coaches and executives, neither one is currently viewed as good enough to hang with the rest of the NFC North. Hopefully that'll change. Beyond the QBs, we've got a fifth-round corner making plays, a first-round defensive tackle who's healthy but quiet so far, and Jeshaun Jones, once again looking like the best player in camp, who will somehow not make the team. Classic. Let's get into it next on 2O Bloggers. Rock. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your 2O Bloggers. Hey there, Darren. What you doing way up there? This is interesting.
I don't know.
I can see why. Here we go. That was strange. How are things in the Great White North, or are you in the Great White North at all?
I am. I'm in just outside a community called Osoyoos, British Columbia, which is pretty close to the British Columbia-Washington state border. Like, it's the U.S. border is probably 10, 15 miles south of where I'm staying. Pretty heavy wild. This is kind of the Okanagan Valley area, very deserty, which is odd to see in Canada. So first time I've been here, but they even have rattlesnakes up here. Yeah. So, but lots of wildfires in the area, and the wildfire smoke is bad. I apologize. The internet connection here is kind of slow too. That's why I'm blurry, and maybe my video will be a second or two behind at times. But I think the vocals are coming in on time.
Yeah, they're coming in just fine.
So, life on the road.
Yes, we titled this one "A Vikings QB Crisis?" ? Do we have a crisis? Hopefully, we'll help answer that today. Starting with the first theme. This one. The QB competition.
Yeah, Dave. Know that the Vikings quarterback competition between Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy has been the number one topic by the Vikings media covering the team, and as well it should. because the quarterback is the most important position in sports and certainly in football. And no NFL team is going to get very far if they're getting so or to terrible quarterback play. So this is clearly going to be, if the Vikings are having a quarterback competition, this is going to be the number one topic to talk about. And now over a week, we're into week, what this is today is practice number 9 of training camp, basically. And so we're starting to get see some trends, I think, from that quarterback competition story. And I wanted to talk about my concerns about how this quarterback competition is going so far. And the concern isn't about, one, is it actually a legit competition? Because what we have seen, Dave, from thanks to the Vikings media covering this, is that the first team reps and the reps with Kyler Murray with against the first team defense have been heavily weighted towards him. Like, I think he's got twice as many reps with the first team as JJ McCarthy has. So that brings into question like how legitimate this competition is. Like, Kevin O'Connell seems to have maybe already declared his intentions on who's winning this. But putting that aside, my concerns with the competition is actually the play of Murray and McCarthy during the 8 practices that they have had. By, as you mentioned it in the intro, David, Kyler Murray had 2, I think, very good days so far with the practices that have gone on. But he's had a lot of days where he's been okay or so, or in Tyler Fornes's words, just fine. JJ McCarthy, on the other hand,
Now,
has
Tyler
been
has described him
yesterday
as fine, but that's one of Tyler's favorite words when he's describing a player and the results. Oh, it's
right.
fine.
McCarthy yesterday, from what we read, was his strongest day so far of the practices. And keep in mind, these are my opinions, Dave, from a guy who has not watched any Vikings practices personally. I'm taking this from the media who are covering the Vikings on a regular basis and giving us daily reports. Judd Zulgad, Kevin Seifert, Matthew Collar, Ben Gessling, Andrew Kramer, Erica Leaker as well, or Emmy Leaker from the Star Tribune. That's where I'm getting a lot of my information. So this is from reading them and taking what I'm reading and and making my own observations. But McCarthy had a pretty good day yesterday, probably his best, but mostly he's been so as well through the whole training camp, struggling with a lot of the same things that he struggled with last year as a starter: accuracy, technique, footwork, that sort of thing. So that's where my concerns lie, Dave, because overall, the Vikings quarterbacks, nobody is really taking the bull by the horns. And McCarthy doesn't seem to be capitalizing or gaining any ground on Murray, even though Murray hasn't really been outstanding so far during the training camp practices he's had. And that's a concern, Dave, because if you look at the Vikings quarterback situation and you're getting Kevin O'Connell's just getting so or at best good results from both McCarthy and Murray. You wonder like is so going to be good enough to beat Jordan Love at Lambeau and the Packers at Lambeau? Is so okay going to be good enough to beat Jared Goff and the Lions, or Caleb Williams and the Bears when the time comes? I think that's a pretty fair question, and something that I would be concerned about. So, and I am concerned about. And I've really been a bit surprised by particularly Kyler Murray and the fact that he seems to have been, again, not really uh, he's had just he hasn't been able to stack consecutive good days on top of one another, and he's only had a couple of very good days. That does concern me quite a bit, because he's a veteran. He's a guy who's thrown for 3,900, 4,000 yards in the NFL before, is considered a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. I was expecting a bit more from him in this case. But so I guess, but taking a step back, I also have to think about how early we are in training camp, and that really the first real practices were July 29th. The first padded practices, I think, were August 1st. in amongst those days, and we're into day 9 now, and one of those days was a rain out and they had to go inside and they did a walkthrough. And so Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy have in total in practices have thrown just over 100 passes each, and they're not taking, neither guy is taking full-time reps with ones or the twos. So either both of them aren't getting the reps that a guy, an unquestioned starter, would get at the NFL level. So I think there's still time for them to distance. But so far, Dave, the quarterback competition right now is almost the worst outcome that I think the Vikings could have at this stage in training camp. The best outcome to me would be one, both guys are playing lights out. It's a tough decision for Kevin McCarthy to make on the starting quarterback, but eventually, whenever he makes that decision, and whoever the guy he names as the starter, we feel really good about that guy being the starter because both guys have played so well in training camp up to this point. I think that's 1A. 1B as the best outcome would be one guy is obviously better than the other and is playing lights out. The other guy just can't quite keep up. Kevin O'Connell's able to make a decision very early, preferably before the joint practices with Baltimore, on who the number one guy is, and then that number one guy can take the first team reps the rest of the way and is ready to go in the starting season. But again, we at least feel good, pretty confident about the one guy being really good starting quarterback play based on what we've seen at training camp. I think the worst outcome, which we haven't had so far, is that both guys are terrible. They look lost. They look like they can't handle the offense. They're missing a bunch of throws. The defense is consistently dominating the offense in large part because of the quarterback play. And we are like, man, we are screwed because we do not have a quarterback who can play at the NFL level. We haven't seen that. But I think the second worst outcome is what we have right now, which is both guys are so okay. Nobody's really running away with it. Nobody's looking outstanding. We've got question marks about the quarterback playing, and we do really wonder: are these guys going to be good enough to go toe to toe with Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and Caleb Williams in the division, and everybody else they're going to have to face in the NFL? So that's where things seem to be right now. Again, it's still a bit early, but we're getting into past week 2 of training camp. Somebody's got to start emerging as playing well consistently. We're not seeing that yet, and again, particularly with Kyler Murray, I've been surprised by that. And I feel that some grace has to be given to him, but also there's the thing about how when I think about it, with Kyler Murray and with all of that, I do think that there's, at a time, again, somebody's got to emerge here. Somebody's got to really take the bull by the horns. We're not seeing it, and I do have to remember about Sam Darnold in 2024, Dave, where early on he he had some good days, but not so good days. And there was questions about how he would as a quarterback. In the end, it worked out really, really well. But at this point in training camp in 2024, I don't think we were really sold on Sam Darnold as the Vikings starter at that point. But by later in the camp, things seemed to click for him. And when the season started, things got rolling and he played really, really well. Maybe that happens with Kyler Murray, but so far we aren't seeing it. So again, concerns are: do we have a quarterback who can play really good at the NFL level? Right now, we're not seeing it, Dave, and that's a concern going into the season. I don't know if you have the same concerns at this point in time, but I'd love to hear about them.
Yeah, I do have the same concerns, and I have the same concerns not only of the quarterbacks but of this guy. I saw a tweet this morning that I thought was particularly interesting. It was from Jake Anderson from the PGA. And he says, everyone's got this QB situation all wrong. The narrative that JJ has to prove that he's light years ahead of Kyler to win the job, it should be the other way around. Kyler should have to prove he's light years ahead of JJ to win the job. Now, and that goes how you're thinking about this. Is it you're bringing in the veteran who should be light years ahead of JJ? And right now, depending on whose stats you look at and all that, they're about even. Good days, bad days, good throws, bad throws, all that sort of stuff. Now, Tyler will say, but JJ's processing is bad. Well, how do you excuse Kyler's processing? Oh, you're saying he's still learning the system. Well, he's throwing to the correct receivers. He's just off target as well. I find it very, very interesting. I do think it's already settled. I think it was settled when we signed Kyler Murray. And the fact that Kyler Murray's getting 2 to 3 times more reps with the ones. Now, does Kevin O'Connell think that will help him learn quicker, learn the playbook quicker? I don't know. Like I said, I think it's already decided. It's just not official yet. When it becomes official, that's going to be interesting to see. Will it be the middle of this week? We have an eclipse on Wednesday, and we had Jade on with Rap the other night, and she was talking astrology and how absolutely powerful that day is. Okay, that's possible. Could it be after the ball game coming up this weekend against the Giants? Who knows? Could it be right before the Giants, which leads or gives credence to Wednesday? We don't know, but it's been a fair competition, as in each one's gotten basically the same amount of reps. But it hasn't been, I think it's been more weighted towards JJ, or not to JJ, but towards Kyler. I'm just disappointed. Yeah. Neither one of them is stepping up and looking like, oh, dude, this is his year. He's going to take it, and he's going to be a stud. Now, the folks that said, well, yeah, oh, this is such a hard offense to learn. It took Sam Darnold half the year. It took Kirk Cousins half the year of whining to figure it out. All that sort of stuff, that may be true. But that's from veterans that had been in the league, 5, 6, 7 years before they hit this. Versus a rookie that's had 1 year of just learning the playbook because he was injured, and the second year of actually trying to implement the playbook with about 500 people in his ear. It's interesting to see how this is going to work. It could be a complete success. It could be a complete disaster. We don't know. All I care about is that it's hopefully a success, no matter which way it goes. But we still don't know, and we'll get into it in theme 3 as to how the rest of the league feels about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
David, I'm with you. I'm waiting for one guy to stack and I don't mean 2 in a row, I mean 3 and 4 in a row where they're looking really good. At that point, I'll start to feel a little bit better about this situation. Haven't seen it yet, and that's why I'm concerned. And Dave, you always say, I'm a negative Nelly. So
yes, and I'm sort of becoming that way because of what I'm seeing. I watched a Doogie clip this morning, and he says, folks, this QB competition has been underwhelming. Was his word, and he used it like 3 times during the clip. And so far,
that's not a positive.
I agree with him. And is it what we want? No. Now, we're looking at things with a microscope. We're looking at every single rep that we can get our hands on. Thank you, Vikings and NFL, for no filming. And we're looking at, every report, all that sort of stuff. But we want somebody to come out and take the reins and stand out. Hey, maybe it won't happen. We're only a week and a half into this, right? Almost 2 weeks into it. We haven't had a game yet.
Yeah.
And we know it's a build-up process, and it's going to take a bit. But let's see. Hey, who knows? KOC may come out and say, Kyler Murray's the starter. Do it on Monday. Why? So he can play 8 snaps and then be put in bubble wrap the rest of preseason. And then J.J. McCarthy goes out there and plays halves during the preseason and just balls out. And then what were you going to do? Besides bitch.
there'll be a lot of bitching and second guessing and armchair head coaching if that happens.
100% correct. But let's move on to a better topic. On to theme 2. You name this one Beyond Quarterback Competition Dome. And my apologies to Tina Turner.
I knew you'd get the
great movie.
I knew you'd get the '80s reference, Dave. Beyond
yes.
Thunderdome. So yeah, there's more than quarterback competition going on. Dave, with the NFL for sure, and with the Vikings, and some of those things have to do, particularly for me, is with the Vikings 2026 draft class, the 9-player class, which is it's the largest they've had since the 2022 disastrous 10-man draft that they have, and none of those players from the 2022 draft are with the Vikings anymore. But because the Vikings are a veteran team, with that, there's not a whole lot of intrigue on start right now, as to those are all pretty much settled except the quarterback situation. But that doesn't mean that there's not some intrigue and competition with the backups and depth, and that's pretty important because a lot of those veterans who are on the Vikings now are not going to be with the Vikings in 2027 or and beyond, and so we really need some of these rookies to get and start showing that they can be contributors and to the Vikings and be counted on to play a significant amount of snaps either this season or beyond 2027. And there are some guys that are emerging. We take this with a grain of salt because we're 9 practices into the training camp, but the first guy that stood out is Charles Demmings. The cornerback, 5th-round pick from Stephen F. Austin. We knew right from the get-go that he's been somebody who's attracted interest because he's got a really he's great with quotes. He seems very confident. He also came from a small school at Stephen F. Austin, which has not produced a lot of NFLers. Jeremiah Trotter would be the greatest amongst all of those. But he has consistently been making plays, breaking up passes, getting in the face of the Vikings receivers that he's covering. He doesn't seem to be intimidated when he's going up against Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison or Jawan Jennings, all established guys. And so that's been pretty eye-opening to and encouraging to see because even though coming from Stephen F. Austin, which is an FCS school, it was expected that he would have some issues of transitioning to the pro level, but he also tested really well at the combine, Dave. Great 40 time, great leaping ability, and what he's shown again in training camp so far is he keeps showing up day after day after day, making plays, and that's encouraging because again, the Vikings have not been able to draft and develop a corner themselves since Trey was in Mackenzie Alexander, 2015 and 2016, and those guys weren't even very good. The last Vikings cornerback that they drafted who starred for the team was the 2013 draftee first rounder Xavier Rhodes. So that's 14 drafts ago, and the Vikings. So it'd be really advantageous if Demmings continues to show that he belongs in the NFL because when you look at the Vikings' top 3 corners right now, Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, and James Pierre, none of them are signed beyond 2027. The Vikings are going to need some young guys to come on board and be potentially play a lot in the not too distant future, and maybe Demmings is that guy. We do have to pump the brakes a bit on this day because we have seen this movie before, right? Like in 2022, Andrew Booth Jr. was the talk of camp early in training camp, and we know what he amounted to. Last year's Amaya Vaughn even showed up OTAs and making plays in early parts of training camp. He's he was a practice squad guy, didn't even make the team. And if you think back to 2011, Chris Cook was the talk of training camp at that point in time. He didn't amount to much as a Pro Bowl, as an NFL player either. So encouraging what Demmings is doing. I still think his 2026, he's still going to need seasoning. I don't think he's going to be a guy who plays many snaps, or defensive snaps at all, other than garbage time. But encouraging to see him making plays. We'll see if that continues in preseason, because he's going to get a lot. And we'll take it from there. But we can dream, Dave, that maybe we found a future cornerback here.
Hey, I'm sure hoping so. He's making more PBUs today. I'm reading on Twitter, as practice should be wrapping up about now. Hey, if we can find a good corner for the long term and draft him, this is a win. Brzezinski in his draft has been fantastic so far.
True enough. Another guy that is defensive tackle, Caleb Banks, the number 18 overall pick. We know all about the problems with his left foot injuries and the multiple surgeries and concerns about his health, but he's been a full go in training camp. We're not hearing a lot about him making plays or looking like he's dominating, but I think in his case, really the last time he played any football at all was 2024. So I think it's going to take some time for him to get not just used to the pro game, but just used to playing football on a consistent basis again. I think it's going to take some time for him to find his way, find the right role at the NFL level. He is mixing in with the ones a bit from what we're reading, but just for me, encouraging to see him that he is so far not having any issues with his foot. And that's the major thing, is his health. And he's got the talent. He just needs to develop. So really waiting and really intrigued to see how he does in joint practices against the Ravens in about a week's time. And then in the preseason as well, where he starts showing out and starts showing that he's a guy that playing 20, 30 defensive snaps a game during regular season games. But taking it slow with Banks right now, but encouraging about his health and the fact that he's just participating and not having any issues with the feet.
Yeah, we hope not. From the little I've seen, he has been a little bit disruptive, but they're taking it slow with him during practice. He's not getting all the, hey, you're the starter, now go type snaps.
Yeah.
He's being worked in and out.
Yeah, from what I'm reading, it looks like Levi Drake Rodriguez, Jalen Redmond, of course, and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins are your starting 3 defensive linemen right now. But there's room for Banks and Dominique Orange to eat into that. I don't think they're going to eat into Jalen Redmond's snaps, but certainly the other two.
Right. And Ted's been moved outside, so that opens up the spot for him to come inside and all that sort of stuff. But it's interesting. I saw an interesting question about, will we get a compensatory pick for Kyler Murray possibly next year? And I'm not sure.
Well, if he's the starter, and if he's the starter, then
and signs will be a qualified unrestricted free agent, so I would assume so.
If he's the starter, plays the full season, and signs a pretty sizable deal, just Darnold, then I think the Vikings are guaranteed to get a 3rd round comp pick
in Bob says, probably
the 2028 draft. Yeah,
but he's got to play
what they
well.
got for Cousins. Yes, he does. That's what they got for Cousins and Darnold when they let them go. And so Murray has to play at the same level and get a contract similar to what those guys get. He's probably not going to get a Cousins contract, but something like Darnold or a little bit more. And yeah, we get a 3rd round pick for that, I think. But going on to the young guys again as well, Jake Golday, another part 2026 class. Hearing some good things about him. He's another guy who seems to be showing up on a daily basis in the reports. We know that he's been worked both at inside linebacker and outside linebacker, and we heard about him tipping that pass of McCarthy and leading to an interception. So what we knew about his athleticism and his size, which were really highly ranked, we just didn't know again how he'd transfer that at the NFL level, coming from playing at the University of Cincinnati last. But it seems like Brian Flores, who is not really trusted rookies at all since he's become coordinator in 2023. He seems to be giving Golday a lot of run, particularly with the ones, and Golday seems to be able to have, he's picked up the defense quite well, and he's making plays like Demmings is. We're hearing a lot about him. He doesn't look out of place, and I think that's really encouraging to see what kind of role he's going to have. Is it going to be a bit of the edge where he's rushing the passer a bit, but also is he somebody that Brian Flores can trust to spell Blake Cashman and Eric Wilson when they need a rest, or if they get hurt a little bit and have to miss some time during a game or miss multiple games. It'd be great. It's great to see that Golday looks like, again, he belongs at the NFL and isn't a guy who needs 2 or 3 years of development to start playing regular season defensive snaps. That's what he's looking like right now. And again, we'll chart him in preseason and see if he can keep on showing up in preseason like he seems to be doing in training camp. But from Jake Golday right now, what we're reading and hearing about him.
Yep, I'm liking what I'm hearing. He seems to be all over, and he has been doing mostly inside linebacker stuff, but he has been out there on the outside for a few snaps as well. It's going to be fun to watch him in the preseason game.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Because he's another guy I expect to get a lot of run in the preseason and be out there a lot. And another guy who's going to be doing that too, and another guy we're hearing about day in and day out is tight end Gavin Bartholomew, not part of the 2026 draft class, but the 2025 draft class. Last year, missed the whole season with a serious back injury, but he's a guy now, every day we're reading about, he's made this big catch, he made this catch, he's doing this, he's doing that. Bartholomew is a guy who's shown particularly that he's got pass catching chops. Like last year, the Vikings' third tight end, and this might not be a big deal that Bartholomew is showing that he could be a viable tight end number 3 for the Vikings, because you've got TJ Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, who are your number 1 and number 2 tight ends. And if they're healthy, they're going to play a lot. And the third tight end is not going to see much action. Last year, the Vikings' number 3 and 4 tight ends were Ben Urasik, the rookie, and then they signed Ben Sims off the scrap heap. Sims is no longer with the Vikings. Urasik last year was just kind of, he was, I don't know, meh in the role that he had. But nice. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in him being a future guy who's like a solid number 3 tight end. But Urasek is a guy where his strength is blocking, pass blocking, run blocking. He doesn't seem to have much juice as a pass catcher, whereas the Vikings' other tight end prospect in camp right now, Bryson Nesbitt, is like the complete opposite. He's a thinner guy who's great pass catching target, but probably isn't going to be much of a factor as a blocker. Well, if Gavin Bartholomew, he's shown that he can be a legit pass catcher. He seems to be holding up as a blocker. If he shows he's capable of doing both, then I think that really solidifies him as the number 3 tight end for the Vikings this year. And they need to get some young tight end to emerge, because TJ Hawkinson is a free agent after this season. Josh Oliver won't be a free agent until 2028. But if Hawkinson were to leave the Vikings after this season, and I don't know if Josh Oliver is the guy you want to be your number 1 tight end. So again, the Vikings need to start developing some depth on these guys, and Bartholomew's play in training camp so far is encouraging that he could be one of these guys who maybe takes like a Tyler Conklin career arc, where Conklin, as you remember, he didn't really play very much his first 2 seasons at all, played a bit more in his third, and then in his 4th and final season with the Vikings, he was a starter and broke out with 60-some catches, ended up signing with the Jets. But I think Bartholomew could have that kind of similar type career with the Vikings, where you didn't hear a whole lot from him in his rookie year because he was injured, but gradually he started into the Vikings offense, playing more and more and more, and maybe eventually replacing Hawkinson, or somewhere on that, not replacing Hawkinson as the number 1 guy, but he's a guy that the Vikings could trust to play a lot of snaps and be productive in that spot, which is something we were unsure of in his rookie year because we didn't see him because he was injured all the time.
Right. And I've always said it, you draft a tight end for it's his next team. We'll see if it takes that long to develop him. Hopefully not. he's showing signs this year, so that's a good thing. Especially when TJ Hawkinson, Mr. Jumps a Lot, is, let's see if he has a bounce back here.
Yes. The final guy I'm going to talk about who's emerging has been, if you've been reading all of the stuff from camp, the videos from various reporters, the write-ups from the reporters, the stories, then every day you're reading about Jeshaun Jones, and he's probably been mentioned the most in the reports I've read. He's mentioned the most of anybody, maybe compare other than Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. Really, every day we're hearing about him catching a touchdown pass from McCarthy or Murray, or catching a big long gain from McCarthy or Murray, or both, and he just keeps on making plays. But if you're getting kind of Tristan Jackson, Lucky Jackson vibes from Jones at this point, I don't blame you, because the two Jacksons in camps of yore always seem to do this too. They'd have strong camps, they were making plays, but they never could establish themselves as a guy who could play any offensive snaps for the Vikings. They were practice squad guys, or guys that, for the most part, and they just didn't end up advancing and being mainstays with the Vikings. I think Jones is going to end up being a similar type of guy. A big problem for him, Dave, is that he's an old prospect. Like right now, he is 26 years old. He's only 6 months younger than Justin Jefferson.
Wow.
He's only Jordan Addison is 2 years younger than him, and Ty Felton is who the Vikings are expending, I think, a lot of time and energy in developing. Felton is 23 years old. So, and they've also got Jauan Jennings on the team. So, you look at all of those guys stacked ahead of Jones, and also there's Miles Price. If the Vikings keep Price as a return and punt return and kickoff return specialist, he's going to make the team. He's a wide receiver. Where does Jones fit? Do the 6 wide receivers? I don't think so. So I think Jones is, as much as he's going, no matter how many plays he makes, it's not going to change his standing on the team, I think. But he's just got to keep on making plays. Hopefully, if the Vikings don't want to keep him and allow him to make the roster, he'll get noticed by some other team and they'll pick him up. Again, I don't think. I don't think his time with the Vikings is like he's going to make the Vikings unless he like completely just dominates here over training camp. But he's doing to put himself in position to get an NFL job somewhere. I just don't think it's going to be with the Vikings.
It's going to be interesting. He's obviously he's a camp wonder and shows in camp. Let's see how he does in preseason games. Let's see if he sticks this time. All right, now that theme 2 is over, what do we got next?
Always theme 3, Dave.
This week in Vikings land. And this week, we are talking about a certain, what do we want to call it? The Athletic gathered a whole bunch of execs from around the league to create a tiered system for Mike Sando, this dude, to come up with the quarterbacks. And how do you think the Vikings quarterbacks did?
Yes, this is the Athletics' annual, Sando's annual quarterback tiers ranking. He's been doing it since 2014. I think he was with ESPN back then. Now he's with the Athletic. But this isn't. This is kind of an interesting exercise, Dave, because it's not just a survey put together by Sando, but it's actually, as you mentioned, there's they poll 21 NFL executives, both past and present, as well as 29 coaches at various levels, and ask them what
50.
they think about each quarterback.
50 experts.
Ask them what they think about. And they asked them what they think about. They end up ranking 35 NFL quarterbacks who reasonably could be considered to be starters this season, and you got them up there. That group doesn't think very highly of Vikings potential starting quarterbacks. And they have 5 tiers. There's tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Tier 1's like the really the cream of the crop, the guys that carry teams. Tier 5 guys are guys that aren't legitimate starting quarterbacks. This year they didn't have anybody ranked in tier 5, but as you can see, Kyler Murray was ranked in 23rd overall in tier 3. And then JJ McCarthy was ranked in tier 4. Tier 4 are guys that are considered, maybe they don't, are usually young guys that they don't have enough information to give a ranking to, or it's either veteran guys who shouldn't be, these NFL experts don't feel should be a starting quarterback for a long period of time during a season. But JJ McCarthy was ranked 34th. The only one ranked below him was Shedeur Sanders from the Browns at 35. So not a very high ranking for either Vikings quarterback. We got to remember these rankings, of course, are not infallible, and they're obviously heavily weighted. Guys did the previous year, and neither Murray or McCarthy had very good seasons last year, so that weighs heavily on the coaches' minds and the executive minds that are ranking them. But still, noteworthy, particularly that Murray was ranked below guys like Bo Nix, 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Daniel Jones. They were all ranked slightly ahead of him. And also noteworthy that all of the other core starting quarterbacks in the NFC North were ranked ahead of the Vikings. Jared Goff was ranked 8th overall. Jordan Love was ranked, Jared Goff was tied for 8th overall. Jordan Love was ranked 10th overall, and Caleb Williams was ranked 11th overall, tied for 11th overall. So they were all solidly in the tier 2 level of this. So all these experts think that the other quarterbacks in the NFC are better than the ones that we potentially will be starting. And again, not infallible rankings. These could be wrong. Heavily weighted on what guys did last year, I think. But still, if they turn out to be fairly accurate and Murray and McCarthy play like the NFL, like these NFL coaches and executives think, the Vikings 2026 season, Dave, is going to be screwed, because if you're getting tier 3, tier 4 quarterback play from if Murray is the 23rd best quarterback in the NFL or somewhere around that level, I don't think the Vikings have much chance, considering the quarterbacks that are also playing in the NFC in particular. I don't have much chance of even making the playoffs, let alone being a factor, if they get that kind of quarterback play from either Murray or McCarthy. Remains to be seen, but that's a bit of a takeaway from that quarterback tier ranking that the Athletic came out with recently.
And with that, why do you think Vegas has us finishing in last place? Now, they're predicting 8.5 wins, but last place in the division.
Yeah. So basically, Vegas thinks we're going to have the same season we had last year.
Mm-hmm. No matter which quarterback starts.
Record-wise.
Now, I think it's going to improve over last year, no matter which quarterback starts, hopefully. But we'll find out. There's a fly that I'm about to pull out my... I'm going to kill it.
I got one flying around here too. But so that's that. But we'll move on from quarterbacks to wide receivers.
Zay Flowers.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about Zay Flowers, but the fact that Flowers signed a big contract extension with the Ravens this week, 4 years, 140 million or whatever, that got Vikings media and fans as well wondering. Jordan Addison, who was picked the same in the first round, same as Zay Flowers, that same, quite heralded 2023 wide receiver class, got them wondering is Addison going to get an extension from the Vikings, and how much will it cost if he does get that extension? And, the worry here is that the Vikings, particularly with Flowers signing the quite lucrative extension that he did, that this is driving the price up for future extensions at wide receiver. And so if Flowers got 140 million over 4 years, or whatever it was, maybe it's 120 million. I might be getting them mixed up, but large extension, that Addison is going to seek something similar or more, and the Vikings can't possibly afford that. Having Addison and Justin Jefferson both earning a lot of coin, because particularly in 2028, when Justin Jefferson is going to account for 15 of the Vikings salary cap, keeping in mind that the salary cap is going up year over year, so it's probably not going to be that high by 2028, but that's what it's set to be right now, which is a significant amount. Dave, I tend to think that these things tend to work themselves out. I don't worry too much about it. I don't think Vikings fans should either. If Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings feel that Jordan Addison is a key part of their offense in the near, going forward, I think Rob Brzezinski and Jordan Addison's agent and management team, they're going to find a contract that meets Addison's needs, but also doesn't hamstring the Vikings financially for multiple years. The Vikings have been able to structure their contracts, pretty well over the years, so that they don't have that issue. The other thing, though, is that if the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell still have doubts about Jordan Addison and whether he's worth that kind of money, they have options right here, Dave. One is, right now, when you look at their depth, look at Jeshaun Jennings. If he really has a good year with the Vikings as a number 3 wide receiver, they can consider extending him following this season. And I think at his age, he'll be 30 starting in 2027. I think you could get him for a 3-year deal that's really a 2-year deal, and you'd commit dollars to him over the course of that contract, which would be, I think, significantly less than what it would be for extending Addison, who is younger and would likely be looking for a 4 or 5-year deal for more dollars. And even if Jennings is playing well, you're still getting a really quality wide receiver who can probably be your number 2 in a lot of cases. Also, Ty Felton works into this, because if he shows, the Vikings are going to be eyeballing him a lot. If he shows that he's ready to be at least a number 3 wide receiver, and maybe he can even slide up to a number 2, again, he's under contract for the next couple of years, even 3 if they want to extend him. Then the Vikings, again, have options where they don't absolutely get cornered into having to sign Addison at where it should be. And also, depending on the year Addison has, if he has a really, really good year, bounce back year this year, his trade value goes up. The Vikings have already exercised his 5th-year option, so he's on the hook for 18. He's going to get paid $18 million next in 2027, regardless of who he plays for. But I think that they could, if he has a really good year, then his trade value goes up. The Vikings could potentially, I think, get a 2nd rounder for him in the trade market.
Gary was just asking that question.
And then, the Vikings can use that draft capital to maneuver in the 2028 draft to finding a young, promising wide receiver like Jordan Addison was in 2023 to supplement the wide receiver depth that they already have, where Justin Jefferson is still rolling. You've got Jeshaun Jennings potentially under contract for that year, and Ty Felton has emerged and become kind of KJ Osborne or better. And then you've got a younger guy coming in the pipeline. So, again, I think the Vikings have options here with Addison. They don't have to be pressured into an extension. It could happen, but again, depending on how things turn out with Jennings and particularly Ty Felton, and also how Addison handles this year, there's options there for them where they don't have to pay big bank to Addison, and everybody gets concerned about how much money we have invested in the wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, Figs asked, what was Darnold's ranking in 22 since he primarily sat in 23? I bet it was low.
It would have been very low.
Still relatively low. For a Super Bowl winning quarterback?
Even after 2024, the 2025 tier rankings of Darnold was a tier 2 guy this year. Last year, he was a tier 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
you got to do it over and over and over and over and over again to prove it, to move yourself up those charts.
Yeah.
Or you drop because you haven't done it over and over and over again. Now we can blame the team, whatever's around him, the old linemen, everything like that, but it's the way it works.
Yep.
All right. Now on to the next one, since we have Jordan Addison, and there'll be time to talk Jordan Addison's extension, I'm sure, numerous times after this season, and we'll see how it goes. But remember, we still have him under control. We've got his 5th-year option, and we can always tag him if necessary. And I still think that's less than $35 million a year. But you'll lose him after that, most likely.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Finally,
it is what it is. Now on to the next guy, Mr. Jamal Adams.
Yeah. Last week we talked about Adams signing, and I talked about what is his role going to be with the Vikings. And at that point in time, considering that he had been strictly inside linebacker with Las Vegas last year, I felt that I think the general consensus was that his days of playing safety are probably over. And if he's going to make the Vikings, it'll be in an inside linebacker role, and they're probably going to use blitz a lot, but not much else. Well, Kevin Seifert from ESPN reported after yesterday's practice that Adams has changed his uniform number. He was wearing Eric Kendricks' old 54, and now he's wearing 32, which is interesting because normally guys in the secondary do not wear a number higher than 49. And Adams was working in with the first team at the safety position yesterday and Friday as well in practices. So we know Brian Flores likes guys that can play multiple positions. And we know he likes to try things during training camp to see where guys fit, what they can do, what they can't do, how he can utilize them in a game. And so the number change and the fact that Adams was playing a fair bit at safety yesterday, whereas I thought if Adams makes the team, it's going to be strictly inside linebacker. Maybe not. Looks like Flores is trying to see whether Adams can play both, kind of the joker role that Josh Metellus has played, where he can play him a lot in the box. He can use him as a bit of a big time, but also use him to blitz, weaponize him as a blitzer as well, which I think is an interesting thing. And we'll see how that goes. And also, we'll see if Adams plays a lot in preseason so that Flores can kind of try out to see how Adams works in these two dual roles and how he can work with him. Normally, a veteran like Adams would not be playing at all during preseason, but he's a long ways away from his Pro Bowl days, and he's just trying to make the team. But maybe he's a guy who can the Josh Metellus role, and I'm sure Flores would love to have as many guys as possible who can do the things that Josh Metellus has done in the past, where you don't know if is he going to crush the quarterback, is he going to cover, what is he going to do? Adams looks like he is getting a shot at carving out that kind of role as well.
Hey, I think it's fantastic for Brian Flores because he does like those guys that can play multiple positions. It's almost a prerequisite to play on his team. And he can. Now, when he was hired as a linebacker, I thought, oh boy, Pace's days are numbered. Well, Pace has been motivated from what I'm reading in camp as well. So that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing that they're going to move him back and forth and, give him a more DB number. And let's see how that goes. And he could play more of Metellus's joker role. And Metellus can play that. Jay Ward can play that. And, it's the whole who's coming and who's going routine that B-Flow thrives on. Whether it be your linemen, your linebackers, or your DBs. It's gonna be fun to watch. So that, dear friends, is it for today. This day, Saturday, August 9th, day 9 of training camp. And Monday, we'll have the Real Forno Show. I don't know if it's going to be live or if he's going to tape it or what, because Tyler's on vacation. You got to give him grief. There, Darren.
Eventually.
But we have a game next week. So we're going to have to talk about how we're going to do this show. Because it's next Saturday.
We do, because I'll be heading back home by that point in time. And I won't even be able to watch the game live. I'll have to watch it later on because it's on Saturday, I think, and we'll be driving a fair amount, but we'll work all that stuff out.
At noon, and you'll be driving?
Yeah.
You need to get one of those Starlink portables.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can mount it on your car.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Hey, It probably gets you better down put and up put than this Wi-Fi you're on.
Oh yeah, no, that wouldn't be hard to top.
All right. With that, what do we say, buddy?
We say SKOL Vikings, baby, and thanks everybody for watching and commenting. I appreciate it as always.
Yes, and as always, SKOL Vikings!
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcast as part of
the Bleav Show Network.
SKOL, everybody!